Now, what would you say if someone told you that how happy you are depends on you?
Well, I'd probably agree with you, although it's easier than said than done.
Well, our next guest has written a book, and it's this book is Happiness is a State of Mind, as in me. And in this book, she talks about an approach to life that will actually empower you to take happiness in your own hands.
Well, we welcome Dr. Maureen Neihart, a clinical psychologist by training and now book author. Morning to you.
Good morning.
So tell us, why write a book about happiness?
Well, I'm excited about the research because we have good research now to tell us that it really is possible to have a better life. Happiness is about how you evaluate the quality of your life overall, not just how you feel in a fleeting moment.
So what exactly is happiness to you, and how would you define it?
I define it as an abundant life. Having the best possible life you can.
And I think we all agree with you on that, but what's new here? What is it that we didn't realize before that, you know, we could probably implement now that will change things around?
I think what's new is the concept of behavioral vaccines. We all know what a vaccine is. It's something that a shot you get to kind of protect yourself and improve your health. And a behavioral vaccine is a simple step that's been scientifically proven in clinical trials to improve your life. And there's quite a few of them, maybe a couple of dozen of them now. So little things you can do that make a big difference.
Tell us more about the vaccine. It's not actually a jab. It's something that you have to work on. Well, what is it?
It's something that you do. Some take as little as a minute. Some take a little bit more time. But an example would be like the Luceta ratio, which is the amount of positivity in your life. You can increase the number of positive interactions you have versus negative interactions you have. And that will make a big difference in your relationships.
Does it come down to perhaps a change of mindset, the way you think, the way you look at things?
Some behavioral vaccines are about how you think, but some are what you do, some are what you say, some are what you say to yourself or what you say to other people.
Is it as simple as changing the way you behave, I mean, change the things that you do in your life to make you feel better about yourself? Is it as simple as that?
It's not just about making yourself feel better about yourself, although that's certainly part of it. It's about improving your relationships, strengthening your relationships, because we know that strength of relationships, it really improves the quality of your life. It's about changing your mood overall, just feeling more joy.
But it's not quite as easy as just deciding tomorrow, right, I just want to change my outlook on life. I mean, some people who are suffering from depression, for instance, how do they take that step and make that change?
Well, we want to start with small things. So it's easier to take a small step than to make a grand leap, for example. It's hard to revolutionize your entire life. But it really is quite amazing how something that's actually quite small can make quite a powerful difference, even in the short term. Something as simple as when you go to bed at night, thinking of 3 good things that happened to you that day and what you think caused those to happen. Doing that over a period of a few weeks will protect you from depression.
Right, okay, sort of reviewing what led to that happiness state and doing it over and over again. I guess that makes sense, but I want to get down to the behavioral vaccine, and it's not just one thing that you have to work on. There's actually a list of many things that, you know, you have to commit yourself to. One of them, the vaccine says, pleasurable activity scheduling. You know, most of us...
Sounds like going for a massage.
For that too, yeah, I think so. But, you know, in our busy lives, it's difficult to do that. I mean, what would you advise?
Well, it's really important to have pleasure in your life, and that's something I wonder about in Singapore, because I've learned living here for a while now that I think there are quite a few people who have very little room in their lives for pleasurable things. It's important to have some pleasure at least a couple of times a week, but certainly it would be nice to have some pleasure every day.
Whether it's a massage or just spending quality time with your kids, you have to commit yourself and set the time aside, right?
Yes, you have to have some pleasure.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to wear down. Life's not going to be as good.
So you're saying people in Singapore are too stressed out because they're not...
I don't think stress is the enemy. I think that's a common misconception, but we actually need stress. Stress is really good for you in some ways, but it's a matter of managing that stress and having a balance in your life. So there are things you can do to cope with the stress, of course, but you do need to make time to enjoy your life.
That means that, yeah, the onus is on you to be responsible to set aside time.
Saying no to some things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you talk about giving yourself a sort of behavioural vaccine and thinking about positive things. Would you say the opposite is also true? If you think negatively, then you'll be unhappy?
Well, it depends. There is a place for negativity. You can't have all positive and no negative. Then you're not in touch with reality. So we're not saying just be positive or just do positive or enjoyable things. But the balance is kind of interesting. You need to have more positive than negative in your life, because the negative really weighs quite heavily. If you think about if something unpleasant happens during the day and something really successful happens during the day, which do you think about more at the end of the day?
I said most of us will mull over the, whatever was unpleasant.
Yes, that's right. So negativity weighs more heavily. So you have to have more positive to balance, to counterbalance the negativity in your life.
So focusing on the positive things will help you a big deal, I suppose.
Well, the positive things are really the behavioral vaccines, things that we know from scientific clinical trials make a difference for people.
You also mentioned, according to your book, 40% of happiness is actually within our control, and we have such profound power to really make ourselves or elevate ourselves to that happiness state. But a lot of us are not doing that.
I know. Isn't that interesting?
And that's because?
Oh, a number of reasons. Locally, I'm not sure. I often hear no choice la.
No choice.
People sometimes feel resigned that they're powerless to make any differences in their life. And so I think if you start with a small step, not try to change everything, but just what's one thing that I could do differently? I'll give you an example. This is an experiment to try. Try fasting from criticism for a day or even for a week if you can, which will reduce the amount of negativity in your interaction.
I think a lot of people would find that really tough.
Maybe.
It will be, I think, in the beginning, but after that it becomes a habit, and I suppose it will put you in a better mood.
Yeah, just try reducing the amount of blaming, criticism, and complaining, and increasing the amount of appreciating, affirming, and encouraging, and just see what happens.
But also going back to you saying that some people find excuses for not being able to be happy, I suppose you have to want to be happy in the first place before you can take those steps.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I think most people would say, most people are satisfied with their lives, probably, but many people would say that I'd like to have an even better life. I'd like the quality of my life to get better and better. But I think a lot of people don't realize what the small step is. What are the possibilities? What could you do?
And the behavioral vaccines basically provides you with these baby steps to be happy. So if you have so many, how many are there altogether?
I think there are about maybe roughly 24 that have been tested, maybe 15 to 24 roughly. I haven't actually counted them all.
And according to the study, you have to implement all of these? Or
No. Sometimes just one will make a difference. Like pleasurable activity scheduling can make a big difference in your life. It depends on the person. One vaccine doesn't operate the same in everybody. Right. So there's an importance in getting a good fit, too, between you and the vaccine. And
so deciding on which vaccine suits your lifestyle is another key thing. What's a good guideline to go about deciding?
Pay attention to either your lifestyle, your strengths, or your biggest area of dissatisfaction. So for instance, I'm a high energy extrovert, so vaccines that get me moving and get me involved with people are a good fit for me. But some people in Singapore live very pressurized lives, and they might want to start with a vaccine that takes very little time.
I think one thing that often makes people unhappy is maybe poor finances. If you're confronting a big problem like that, how do you sort of get yourself out of that rut and make yourself happy?
Sure, that's a very good point. There is a point at which, of course, if you're in abject poverty, then you are going to feel dissatisfied with your life. We're not saying that if you just do these vaccines, no matter what your life circumstances are. But it's interesting that the vaccines make a difference even for people who are elderly, people who are young, people who are cancer patients, people with dementia. So it doesn't really matter what the nature of your circumstances are, what you're dissatisfied with. There are now some behavioral vaccines that will help you manage that and really improve the quality of your life. It's very exciting.
Well, thank you so much
for that. Trust
a business guy to come up with information like that. Maureen Neihart there, the author of Happiness is a State of Mind, on how to achieve optimal happiness by using the behavioral vaccines.